Hello, beautiful people. Happy Monday. We are back. Usual technology check just to make sure that we are running where we're supposed to run. And we're going to get right to it. So, this is a busy week coming up. I know it kind of tailed off towards the end of last week, but there's a busy week coming up. And just introduce my guest today in just a moment. Tomorrow I'll be at 221B Studios at the Grind in Bluffton with Leah McCarthy, owner of Downtown Deli and Magnolia Cafe. We're gonna have a lot of fun. There may or may not be some sandwiches involved, so keep an eye open for that. I'm excited to present to you from a different location, which is again 221B. It just recently had their grand opening and their ribbon cutting. You can book studio space, so I'm excited for you guys to see that. And then the end of the week, we're going to finish out some of the finishing touches on my interview with Mattia and John Domenico, the owners or two of the owners at least at Radici Italian Chop House in Bluffton. So keep an eye open for that. There's some other stuff that's coming up over the next couple of weeks, but that's for another time. For right now, I'm super excited because I've been trying to wrangle this guy down for quite a while. He is busier than a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest, if you will. Want to introduce everybody to my friend Justin Patton, aka the Sushi Dude. What's up, man?
Howdy and hello.
You look great. I love how you got the new tat like right there, like front and center.
Hoju tattoo.
Hell yeah. So for those of you who aren't aware, among his many talents in the kitchen, specifically, but in the kitchen, generally, proverbially, whatever the correct word would be in that situation, he's also an avid skateboard fan and skateboarder. And I always like to kind of, part of the whole thing with this that makes this fun is getting to know other interests that chefs and people in the restaurant and food and beverage industry have outside of cooking and outside of restaurants. Obviously, I always kind of joke around about how I'm surrounded with all my toys, whether it's pro wrestling or I'm into obviously movies and things like that, and sports and all that kind of memorabilia and things. So I'm surrounded by the things that make me happy. And I know that there are quite a few things that we're going to get into that you find somehow, amazingly enough, find the time to do in between your various positions. So before we get into that, right before we went live, you mentioned that you kind of have a reputation of, you use the word mercenary. So you're basically, again, your primary trade, your primary skill is a chef, and more specifically a sushi chef, but you have done just about everything. And so before I want to come back to it, because I want to kind of introduce everybody to the way that I found you, and literally like at least three establishments that I probably would not have stumbled upon, or maybe eventually, but not at the time that I did, thanks to you. But for how long? I mean, you've been in this business for a long time, but for how long has it been? Has it been the entire time where you've been kind of like game to just jump in almost anywhere? Not anywhere, but you know what I mean, with the places that you have connections and that you've established relationships with. How long have you been kind of that like that jackknife that like we used to call Cordell Stewart and other multi-tool quarterbacks in the NFL, like Slash? How long have you had that kind of like reputation for kind of, I can fill in and do any number of these jobs in the kitchen or at the restaurant?
I guess that's just kind of how I was taught. So there was a long-time restaurant here in Beaufort. It was across the street from Beaufort Memorial, the Athenian Gardens. A lot of people know that place. That was like my first like restaurant job when I was 16 years old. And, I did everything there from like bussing tables and serving like assistant to to washing dishes and prep and cooking. So it was just kind of like how I was introduced to the restaurant industry. You are everywhere all at the same time. So I've never worked for like a corporate restaurant where I just did one job. So I never really like thought about it like that. So yeah, it's just it was kind of how I was introduced to the restaurant industry. You get in and you do what needs to be done.
You do what needs to be done. You're part of a team. You're an integral part of that team. And during the course of doing so, you learn. I didn't know, and that's what I love when I hang out with at places like, and we're going to get into talking about it. But I'll get to it right away. When you talk about a place like Locals Raw Bar, just sitting there one day having lunch with my wife and just BSing with Chef Hunter, the owner over there, and we're going to talk about the time that you spent there and still do some work with them as well. He was kind of telling me stories about his experiences and at other restaurants and other things, and he mentioned the term staging, and I had never heard it before. I didn't know what that was, and so even a chef like Hunter, who's had a pretty significant career in the industry, part of what has brought him where he is today is by learning from other chefs, and with staging, it's like you're basically working there for free, right? You're just kind of spending whatever it is, a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and you're kind of just absorbing as much of the stuff that's around you as you possibly can. And it's really, especially the type of cooking that you do, it's really, I mean, it's an art form in addition to, I mean, the presentation is really a huge part of it when you're talking about sushi. So those are kind of how you've accumulated those tools, which is really cool and really interesting. For those of you who are not familiar with Justin, he is known as the Sushi Dude. So how I was introduced to the Sushi Dude was, this is going back a few years. It was probably 21 or 22. I moved here in the spring of 21. So somewhere between then and within a year or so of that, at some point, roughly. I'm very terrible
Probably
with
like middle of 2022, I
Okay,
think.
got it. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So I had been here for about a year. I had been to most of the restaurants on Hilton Head. Obviously, in the 4.5 going on 5 years in April that I've been here, I spent quite a bit of time over in Savannah as well. But Beaufort and Port Royal and Ladies Island and St. Helena, those were relatively unknowns for me, or relative unknowns, excuse me. And one of the places that I came across was, and it may very well have been from your social media, and I want to get into that later too, because that's such a big part of what you do. You don't just support and promote the things that you're doing, you promote and advocate and support for the things that your friend and your family that you've established in this area, your restaurant family that you've established over a number of years, and you do an incredible job with that. But I get sucked in
Thank you.
by you're welcome, my pleasure. I get sucked in by the social media, and you know this because I'm as active as anyone in terms of the reactions and the comments and things like that, because I really do sincerely appreciate it. And so out of nowhere, I think it was my wife that said, there's a sushi guy at Shell Ring Ale House on Monday nights. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Now, I know we had heard of Shell Ring. We may even had a beer there. I don't remember. I just remember that my first experience there actually eating something was your sushi, which
Oh,
was
wow.
the first Monday of the month at this particular period of time.
Yeah, we were
Um,
doing it the first Monday of every month, I believe. Yeah.
and it was, I mean, the pictures just jumped right off the page, and it's weird because like with my job, so like I do a mortgage, I'm a mortgage loan originator, and that's my primary occupation. And so Monday is kind of like a bear, at least in this industry, when things are busy. They haven't been tremendously busy these last couple of years because of the rates and a number of other criteria, but we're not going to get into that boring mortgage stuff today. But Mondays are oddly a kind of a good day for me, because it's like, whether I'm super busy or whether it's kind of on the quiet side, you're kind of like setting up your week, but it's also kind of like, I don't want to say a hangover, but it's kind of like sometimes the activities and things like that like carry on through to a Monday. I've mentioned this a couple times over the last couple of few podcasts that I've done. I like to get like a 5:30 reservation at like Fleeting in the Thompson over in the Eastern Wharf in Savannah, and go have like an early dinner when they're doing a pop-up or a residency, and then I'm back back home to take care of the animals and kind of chill out and stuff like that by whatever it is, 7:30, 8 o'clock on a Monday. So we would pop out to Shell Ring, and that's when my first experience with your sushi, and I was immediately blown away by the quality of it, the creativity, the presentation. And this is just serving on sort of like paper plates, right? Because at Shell Ring it's very informal. You get like a spork, and like you got like a cardboard bowl and like a tray and things like that, but yours still looked like you could have been at any kind of like 5-star restaurant with the way that it was presented. And so that's how I found you. And then so I wouldn't have the relationship that I have in terms of being a customer, somewhat frequent customer at Shell Ring, not as much as some of my friends that live over that way. But then from there, I was also introduced to, and I always kind of get mixed up with the order in my head. Was Locals shortly after that, or was it Kitchen next?
So I went to the Kitchen first,
Right.
and then I was doing like a lot of like pop-ups and private dinners and stuff.
Right.
And then Locals, got the opportunity to go to Locals was early 2023. So I was at the Kitchen for a little over a year, but I was also still I've been serving and working at Farm off and on since 2020. So I was like at Farm, went to the Kitchen full time. I actually put in my 2 weeks notice at Farm in January of 2022 when I took the job at the Kitchen, and I didn't do my last shift at Farm until May of 2023. The longest 2 weeks anyone's ever done,
For real.
unless somebody's got me beat on that. But then I went from I was at Locals from like May, June of 2023 to September of 2023, and I helped Hunter and Jess open up and kind of get the the floor plans, I guess, if you will.
Right.
So
But
yeah.
before that, you and we're going to come back to Farm. We'll circle back to that last. But before that, you had that stint at the Kitchen. Now, at that time, the Kitchen isn't what it is now, and almost newly now. It's only been what, like a month and a half, maybe.
It's been about 2, maybe going on 3 months.
Oh,
It's
wow,
crazy
okay.
because like
That's wild.
since we've opened that other side, I haven't really had a full day off of work until this last weekend. So I don't really know the time frame, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, but it's been at least like 2 or 3 months.
Right. So but at that time, when you originally were there, just a small sort of storefront, next to there was like a Mexican restaurant next door to there by the, is it the Graco over there on, I
Yes.
think
So
it's
that
the main
Graco,
anchor of that
that
store.
strip mall.
Right. And so, again, folks, this is called the Kitchen. So when Justin was originally there, he was doing poke bowls and sushi rolls. The Kitchen is a takeout concept. So, but now there are some seats and things where you can eat, and there's a counter where you can get, and I want to get to that when we start talking about the food, as my mouth's watering here already, because I had to run over there. When I heard that they were doing some renovation and they were expanding, I had to run over there as quickly as possible. That would be like a stop if I was going to a Beato's, or if I was going to Locals. I would do that as like a stop on the way home, and would always have to be like a test, like, can I get out of here without spending like over $100? Because the longer you stay, the more you see, and now it's just blown away. And I want to come back to that with visuals, because you really have to kind of see it to believe it, and even the photos don't do it justice. So you were doing the poke bowls and the stuff there. I got to enjoy a couple of those things when you were over that way. And then, like you said, you helped open Locals. And then, there was a period of a time where I know you were back up north and you were back in Charleston for a while,
Mhm.
and you were doing some similar, restaurant type of stuff. And I remember, I think I had messaged you, once or twice, and we had, some friends in common, because I missed you, man. I was like, I haven't seen Justin in a while. I haven't gotten to enjoy his stuff. And then you came back and literally jumped right back into it with both feet, both hands, the mustache, the trademark mustache and everything. And now this is where I want to get to it, because like your schedule is insane just from the couple of texts that we've exchanged. So you are working at the kitchen,
Mhm.
which is like a morning into sometimes early afternoon, right? Generally,
Mhm.
you're working at Farm. Now, when we talk about Farm, most people that live in Bluffton are familiar with Farm.
Mhm.
It's one of the top restaurants in town, right? The Carters own Farm. They own Common Thread in Savannah, which is one of my absolute favorite restaurants if you're into
And
tasting
flora
ranges.
and fauna.
And you stole the words right out of my mouth. So I told you, we were texting on Saturday, I said, my wife wants to go to, well, it was Sunday. She wanted to go Saturday, but I had a haircut, followed shortly thereafter by a viewing of The Smashing Machine with my dad and my brother, which I really enjoyed. On a kind of like a not so great weather Saturday, we went over there and we actually got some fancy sushi, which was nice for lunch. They do a pretty decent job there. And then we went over to Cinemark and saw the movie. But Sunday, I said, I can get that done. Let's go out to Flora and Fauna. I mean, Flora and Fauna is that, you want to talk about a place that's dangerous. If we're talking about the $100 test, I failed yesterday, dude. I failed miserably. And you probably knew that already when I sent you a photo of the table, because I told you, I know that I'm going to struggle because I want to order like everything. And of course, my wife's not going to let me order everything. But as it is, I already have the other half of my fried chicken Caesar sandwich, because I had another remnants of a Jersey Mike sandwich that I ordered a couple days ago that I wanted to get rid of right away. But I also had my leftover chicken and dumplings from yesterday. And like I said, I still got the other half of my sandwich. And that's kind of what'll happen when I go to places like that, and especially like a Locals. I always end up over ordering, but it's by design because I want to be able to have some leftovers, especially when I'm driving. Like, Locals is not that far. It might take me 25 to 30 minutes to get there.
It's
And
about
and
40,
Florida,
45 minutes from Bluffton.
right,
Not
depending
bad.
on where you are. Yeah, I'm right
Yeah.
on 170, so I can get a little bit of a head start on some of the other people. But you introduced me to, and I don't want to move too quickly through it, because yes, there was an introduction to the kitchen there, and there was definitely I got what I could out of it in terms of enjoying it, for the concept that it was like kind of ready to eat, whether it's frozen or refrigerated, just kind of heat up. I tried some of the chicken salads and some of the soups and things like that. The whole salad sandwich situation over there is incredible. Pizzas. I mean, I don't know what they don't have at the kitchen. But then you were with Locals, like you said, you helped them get that off the ground. I am, as they say, from one of my favorites from the, what was ever it was, the 80s or the 90s, My Blue Heaven. I'm in your debt forever. That's how it works, Steve Martin says. Locals Raw Bar is easily one of my absolute favorite places anywhere around here. It is not, I would say, in the overall, consciousness of, I mean, obviously a tried and true foodie. If you're over here in Bluffton or you're in Hilton Head and are not familiar with Locals Raw Bar, and I'm not talking about Locals Only Tap Room, which I absolutely love. That's a tap room down on the south end of Hilton Head, and Shona Goldstein does a great job with that. But I'm talking about Locals Raw Bar on Ladies Island. Tell us about the genesis of how that came about, what your involvement was. And I mean, there's a legacy there, and they mention you, fairly often, as I do, because you were a big part of it, and you're still an inspiration for some of the things that they do, specifically on the sushi side of things. So talk about that experience, and what that was like, sort of helping friends of yours, open a brand new restaurant that's become such a huge hit with the Locals specifically.
Man, working with and for Hunter and Jess quite literally saved my life. That's a story for another day, but that's how much it means to me. But so Hunter and Jess had moved. They left Beaufort and went and worked at like real deal Michelin starred places. And when they moved back to Beaufort, they wanted to open up their own place, but of course, they had to save and get some things in order. So, they were hustling and grinding while I was doing the same thing. And of course, we're doing those things separately. But Hunter and Jess did a thing at Dawtaw where they were working, where they did like a food competition between like some couples like that live on Data,
Uh-huh.
and I was like a last minute judge because he had one of his friends drop out. So my other friend was already doing it, so they had us being like a judge for this. So it's kind of funny because this happened so organically. I ended up being a judge that night, and Hunter was like, "Hey man, I'm opening a restaurant. You're never going to believe the space." And so he tells me the space, and immediately, like, basically, it was like, "Do you want to be a part of this?" And I'm like, "Absolutely."
Twist my
Um,
arm.
yeah. I was absolutely in right from the get go. But it was funny because like I had to sit on. I couldn't really tell anybody about it because of the. Now, obviously, everybody knows it was the old Fuji, which was like a landmark spot in Beaufort. Um, so went on to work with them, and Hunter is somebody where he is. And then so we also, like, I had met this girl named Danny, and I met her shucking oysters at the farmers market. Her and her sister are opening sister downtown Beaufort at the old Griffin Market, so gotta check that out. That place
I
is
can't wait.
almost, yeah, that place is
And they're gonna
almost
come on.
open.
They're getting close. They're
Oh,
getting
that's
close,
great.
and they're going to come on. I'm hoping that I can get out there. Obviously, I always talk about Warren Zevon. Enjoy every sandwich. That's the words that I live by. So I'm dying to get out there. I've gotten to have a few conversations with them. Very excited to meet them. That's a wild story about how you guys connected. Like it's almost like if you
Yeah.
want to use the word kismet or whatever. Like it's kind of just it's one of those things where you're in the right place at the right time, right? And it just kind of just the universe puts you in that situation.
Yeah,
It's
well, so
incredible.
and the cool thing is like, so how you said earlier that I'm constantly like sharing and trying to get, my friends' businesses out there as well. Um that was like when I started working, like anywhere I go, immediately I'm like, oh, this person would be great for this spot or this spot or this spot. So, when Hunter asked me on, I was like, I know someone, and, hit Danny up. And so, me, Hunter, and Danny were like the first three, and when I was having conversations with Hunter and Danny, it was like everything they said went right over my head. It's like two encyclopedias talking, and then a guy who just kind of like learned, like off the cuff. And a lot of the stuff that I've learned was because when I started doing sushi, like I've been eating sushi way longer than I've been making it, but people would tag me in photos and videos on social media. Can you do this? And then I would try things. So a lot of the stuff I've learned like that with Danny and Hunter, like it's like they're like talking about all these different ingredients and flavor profiles and all this stuff. And so it was cool. Like I feel like we all complemented each other very well. But and then Jess, of course, like with her level of service, her learning what she's done with like her and Hunter working at the same places, Michelin star rated places. What they're doing at locals, they're providing something that I feel like Beaufort does not have. There's incredible talent here in Beaufort, but like they're offering lunch and dinner at a very high level and then at a high pace as well. So.
Oh yeah, high pace for sure. So Danny, I wasn't familiar with him. Is he still involved in that, or is he moved on
No,
to
so
something else?
Danny, she's one of the sisters that's opening Sister Sister.
Oh right, okay. I apologize.
Yes.
I kind of this is why I got to write things down. Yeah. So Danny, I got a little crossed up there. Okay, so that's cool. So that's very exciting. You got to keep an eye open for that. I want to say they said sometime in November, but you guys know as soon as it's humanly possible, I'm going to be over there and indulging in more than a few sandwiches, I'm sure. So the locals thing, really just it just kind of caught fire right away. It's one of those things that I'll do like on a maybe like a Saturday. If it's a weekday and something draws me out there, yes, I'll certainly stop. I've done days where I've gone to Beato's and eaten something and then stopped at Locals on the way home for maybe another nibble, and maybe, like I said, planning ahead. When I went to New Leaf Produce out in St. Helena, I stopped at Beato's. I got a chili cheeseburger with some fries.
Gotta go to
And then I stopped
Vito's.
at Locals because I wanted to try. I wasn't going to get a salad at Beato's. And, I know you and your son like to hit up Beato's as often as possible.
we hit up Vito's all the time.
The
Well, and also,
weekends.
so Brian and Mel, the owners of Vito's, like I've known Brian is like the reason that like what sparked me of being able to turn like what I do into a career. I worked at the Greek place and I worked at the barbecue place when I was younger, and my priority was skateboarding and the skate shop. And as I got older and got injured, I didn't know what I was doing with my life. And I started washing dishes for Brian back in 2010 or 11 at Saltus. And I remember specifically he was having a conversation. We had a lot of like part-time servers there that were really good at what they did, but they've got their other focuses in life as well, like their full-time jobs. And Brian had said to them at lineup one time, like, I get it that this is like your part-time job and this is your side thing, but this is my career and this is
Right.
what I do. So I would appreciate the same respect back to me. And like, he wasn't talking to me. I happened to be like walking by, like probably putting dishes up. And I heard that. I was in my early to mid 20s, and that kind of flipped my perspective. So Brian at Beato's is like, I refer to him all the time as like not only a friend of mine, but he's like my chef mentor.
That's incredible. I've been fortunate enough to have a couple of mentors that played huge roles, plural, in my career. And it's interesting when it comes to, especially for someone like me who's fascinated with the industry, to kind of learn about how that stuff comes about. What you just said makes me think of. It just came up in one of my social media platforms on one of my feeds the other day. One of my favorite movies. There's a couple that I have that are some of my favorite movies about cooking and about chefs. One of them is Burnt with Bradley Cooper, which I just absolutely think is spectacular. That really delves down into the stress of what it's like in owning a restaurant. And it's also about, addiction and things like that too, which is a lot of great lessons to be learned there. And but Chef with Favreau, it was one of my favorites. I got a Swingers poster over in the corner of my room, just like I had when I was in college. They're in the car on the way over to Vegas, but in Chef, his son makes a Cuban or a medianoche, and he's going to hand it to one of the people in the window of the truck, and his father stops him and he says, because the outside of the bread is like slightly burned. And so he says, he says to Legozama or whatever, take this over for a second. And he walks the kid outside the truck and he says, do you like this? And his son is like, yeah, I do. He's like, well, I love it. And he's like, so if you want to do this, and I don't remember the exact words from there, but it's almost the same type of thing that we were just talking about. Like if this might be just a part-time thing for you, this just might be one of the things that you do, but this is what I live to do. This is my career and this is what I love to do. And it needs to be treated with the appropriate amount of respect. And he says, should you have served that sandwich? And he says, no. And then they get right back to work. There's a lot of really cool, themes in that movie. Obviously father and son is one of them, and kind of having a second chance. And he reinvents himself after having basically like a Michelin star level restaurant. So I love hearing about these stories and about how this stuff comes about, and sort of the spider web of all these individuals and that at one point worked in different combinations in these different places, and then they all end up sort of in different situations. But like you said, for your journey that started with farm, that you had the kitchen, which you're still involved there, and you had Locals, which you're still involved there with some in-home chef stuff, which we're going to get to as well. Farm has been part of that journey. I didn't even know that until we're having this conversation, but that farm has been part of that journey. So farm for me was, I'm here for a week on vacation. I've been coming here since I was a kid. And then it's like I meet my wife and we're dating and we get married and we become like foodies together. And now it's like when I come down to Hilton Head for vacation, I used to call it the itinerary. I was like, this is where we're going to go. I would have the reservations all lined up and I would just post about it on Facebook and with some photos and captions, which is kind of how this all started, which is probably around the time that I secured the Eat HHI tag for Instagram. Because I was like, I just feel like this is something that I enjoy doing. Now, granted, at that time, it would only be the once a year, maybe the twice a year if I was lucky enough to get down here. But I always laugh or make people laugh when I say the journey into Bluffton is something that started more recently, I would say a handful of years before we finally moved here. And I'm glad that we did this because we kind of fell in love with it as not necessarily an alternative, but just kind of like a little bit slighter of a different pace than kind of a little bit away from, not that I have any issues with tourists. I was one, but it's nice to be able to kind of, and I also, obviously the proximity to Savannah and the proximity to Beaufort and the Sea Islands is just, for me, is the most convenient if you're going to live in this area. But the whole experience with that was coming down here. By the time it was Wednesday or Thursday of the vacation week, it was like, okay, we're going to take a break from my family because you're in close quarters with a loud Italian family for like 4 or 5 days in a row. I was used to that. I grew up, it's like Bane, right? I was born from it, like I was born from that volume and that conflict and those strong personalities. For someone like my wife, that was a little bit of a shock for her to be in close quarters and whatever and dealing with that. So I say it in the most loving way possible. By Wednesday or Thursday, we would split off and we would venture into Bluffton and maybe have some oysters or maybe an appetizer or two at the Pearl, and then walk up the street. And Farm immediately became our favorite restaurant in Bluffton and still remains to be the case. I'm still chasing the elusive brunch that I haven't gotten around to yet. I need to make that happen because I haven't yet. But talk to us about that family as well. I mean, the Carter family has, with Farm and Common Thread, we mentioned Flora and Fauna. I'm waiting ever so patiently. I'm hoping, I guess, waiting that Strange Bird will eventually get figured out because obviously they had the fire in there and the old streamliner. But I know that they've been able to make some pop-ups and things like that happen as well, which is great. Just talk to us about that whole experience and what it's like to be part of that with Brendan and Declan and the whole gang over there, because that is one hell of a team between, like, literally we're talking about 3-4 plus restaurants, and they do catering and events as well on top of it. I'm sure they do, right? There's a lot going on over there. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, Brian of Vito's, so I worked for Brian at Saltus in the back around like 2015, I believe, is like when they opened. So Brian was like, "Yo, you got to go check out Farm." And I think Brian and Brandon just got cool with each other, chefs being chefs. And so I would go eat at Farm. We would go eat at Farm, like the Saltus, restaurant crew. And then some people from Farm would come eat at Saltus. So we'd like basically go back and forth and take care of each other. And then in 2020, when like COVID hit and everything, I left Saltus and I went and helped do a sushi program in Haversham. Some people remember this one. So I went and worked at Lily and Lou's for about 3 months. And man, me and this girl, Bonnie, put out some amazing sushi in a shoebox kitchen in Habersham, and it was all pickup. And we were doing these insane, like when I look back on it, it gives me anxiety, but it really does. It's crazy because the amount of different things that we were doing and the amount of like hats her and I were both wearing to push out all the sushi was incredible. So that was the owners of Lily and Lou's, Jack and Kate. And what they did with their retirement was went and opened up a restaurant. And then I think, why would we retire and start working this hard, So I left Lily and Lou's and Farm was hiring. And it's crazy because I remember like before when I would go eat there, I was like, I wonder if I'm good enough to work here, and so I put in my application, and Jess, I had served her at Saltus. And I mean, like when I sat down with them, Jess basically like offered me the job on the spot. And I was like so like grateful for that, And so I worked it's funny because I started working there at the end of 2020, COVID. I got to wear this mask, and I got this giant mustache under that. I don't have the mustache right now; it'll be back. But I had this giant mustache under this mask. Um, but I worked for them for a good few months, and then I got a job opportunity to work in Beaufort at a restaurant that was like 8 minutes down the road from my house. Farm was like a 40-minute drive. So I went and worked at that restaurant, and I worked there for like 2 months, and I felt like I remember one time I was serving one of the tables, and somebody asked me, "What's your favorite thing on the menu?" And it hit me like nothing. I felt like, I hate to say this, but I felt like a used car salesman, like in the sense of like, I don't really believe in anything that I'm selling here. Jess happened to like shoot me a message. She didn't know how I was feeling about working at this place. She shot me a message just saying, "How are things going?" And I'm like, I don't like being here. And so she was like, "Well, you can come back if you'd like." And I went back to farm. So I went from 40-minute drive to an 8-minute drive, back to a 40-minute drive, because I liked being at farm, and I liked working with and for, like, the owners and also the people there. And then, so I continued working there, but then I did a private dinner, and I went to Old Timey Meats to go pick up a steak for it, for the people that don't eat suit, like the raw stuff.
Right.
And I happened to drive by the kitchen, and I didn't know what it was. And I was just like, huh, I wonder if the owner of that would be into doing like a sushi pop up. And so this is like at the end of 2021. And the dinner that I did, the girl who I did that for, who was like a classmate of mine, she owns Bang Salon here in Beaufort. I told Brittany about this idea, and Brittany was like, "Oh, my aunt works there. Leanne is awesome. I'll reach out to her." Like 2 days later, Brittany reaches out to me. I gave Leanne your contact. I got you guys in touch. So I went to farm, back to Beaufort, back to farm, and then all of a sudden I get this great opportunity at the kitchen that I can't turn down. It's like a day job. I can do all. Leanne was like, "Hey, you can do all your private events, all that through here." And so I
It started
got.
with a pop up. You said there was a pop up first.
Well, I thought to myself, I wonder if the owner of that place would be into a pop up.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
So, and then Brittany
That's where the
got us in
connection was made.
touch. Yeah, yeah. And so Brittany got us in touch, and then I, offered that. I was like, "How would you feel about doing a pop up?" to Leanne, and Leanne was
Yeah.
like, "How about a full time job?"
Even
Um,
better.
yeah,
I
yeah,
thought you'd
but
never ask.
yeah, and the thing about it was, it was a really difficult decision, because I'm like, man, I just left farm and got back, and then I got this offer to go work at the kitchen. And so I went back to farm and was like, "Hey, like, I got this offer." And they were like, "Sweet, do it. You want to stay on part-time?" So I did. And then also I would do offsite events with them as well. And then so in 2023, I put in my, final notice of like, "Hey, I'm going to help open, I'm going to go be a part of locals." And then so I was in Charleston for until uh May of this year, right?
Yeah.
So I did a dinner in Bluffton, and Jess and Brandon were there, and I hadn't seen Jess in like 2 years. And I like started tearing up when I saw her, because man, they put up, man, listen, I am a diva, okay? Like I am a diva, all right? So I started like tearing up when I saw her. She gave me a big hug. She kind of started tearing up. And she made a joke about I was just talking about you the other day, and how like I would throw you on the floor even if you didn't know the menu, or even if didn't, even if you'd never been at the place. And that meant a lot to me, man, because like being at farm, like that's a high level of service. And so she made a joke about throwing me on the floor. And then next thing you know, I'm talking to my buddy who's the manager at farm, Andrew. And they were like, "Yo, let's get you in here for some like 2 shifts a week." So I start working 2 shifts a week. And then about a month and a half ago, uh my buddy reaches out to me, "Hey, will you go you mind going to Savannah this weekend, and this next coming up weekend, and working at Flora and Fauna?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." So like just making the joke about throwing me in at a restaurant that I had never been to and not knowing what was going on ended up like coming, like happening. So I've been back at farm since I've been probably like probably since about June, July. I've been back at farm too. So I've been back in Beaufort since May, been at the kitchen, and then all of a sudden the farm thing happened, doing the private dinners as well. Um, you know, like working back at Farm again, I tell people now that I'm serving there again, and it's been so long, and I've been back and forth and back and forth. When I'm serving people there, people ask me what's good, and I'm like, look, everything is good. This is about preference. You tell me what's catching your attention, and I'll point you in the right direction accordingly. Um, I drive from Beaufort to come work here because I believe in what I'm selling. Also, the other thing about Farm is like, yes, it's cool for me because like I hadn't served tables in like 2 years. So I got back to this place where it's like a high level of service. It's very upscale food. I say it's very high end food in a casual setting. And like I worked there last Thursday and it gets me like pumped. It gets me excited. Like I'm running up and down the stairs because the back way to run the food up to the next floor, and like I'm excited. I'm like genuinely excited to be there. And I'm glad to be back there. And it's been like such a journey of going back and forth and back and forth. And that they like have always been so supportive of me and like what I'm doing and keeping me around as well. It means the world to me. So.
Understandably so. I didn't realize that you were serving there. Like I thought this was all.
Mhm.
So you're literally doing everything. I mean, you're from the kitchen, from the back of the house to the front of the house.
Mhm.
It's been a while since I've been to Farm, and I'm not going to say it's obviously. I know Declan is kind of relatively firmly
Declan's like my little
overrunning.
brother.
Yeah, so he's pretty much running the show at Flora and Fauna now.
Yep.
But we would get him as our server pretty frequently, and I'm gonna have to sync up with you because it's a different experience. And listen, the staff there is spectacular. It doesn't matter.
I'm there. I'm at Farm Tuesdays and Wednesdays right now.
Okay.
And you know what's funny? When Declan and I used to work together, like we would be on the floor, especially like upstairs, because like upstairs is like, you've got all these big parties and everything, and it gets really like loud and like,
The high
interactive up
ceiling.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Declan and I'll like joke around back and forth and like make fun of each other and like to the tables, and they're like chiming in too. And it's funny though, because like people would get us confused a lot. Well, he
The
used
two
to have a pretty
redheads.
big beard, and
Yeah.
and I had one too, and people would get us confused a lot. And so I would tell people, yeah, when people say, "Oh, you're Declan," I say, "Absolutely," and then I give them the worst service possible.
Like Dick's Last Resort.
Yeah,
Being
Declan
intentional.
was our server, and he was absolutely terrible.
It's almost like Harold's. You got to be in on the joke. Harold's Diner, which I still have to get to on the island. But so that's cool because like what I was going to say was it's just a different experience when you're you can hear the passion. Like when I start getting into stuff like this with people in the business, and you can kind of just see from the way their faces light up. Like you just said, like you were literally like chomping at the bit to get there because the vibe is exactly what you want. You know that you believe in what you're selling, and you are excited to share that with your patrons, right? With your customers. So that's again, I feel like it's just one of those things when it comes up. It's just not, I don't get to any of my favorite places as often as I would like to. And Farm is definitely one of them, especially when the menu changes as often as it does. I mean, I'm torn every time I go there. Like, do I want to do the chef's tasting and let the chef drive? But then there's usually at least a few dishes that I know that I want. So sometimes it's almost as if like we end up ordering. I mean, I think one time we ordered 12 plates. We lost. I mean, we definitely got more than we were bargained for there. But it's definitely one of my favorites. I definitely have a soft spot in my heart for Common Thread, just because we've had a couple of really cool, we've had couple of really cool experiences with the tasting menus there and some of the pop-ups that they've done. One time for my wife's birthday, they sat her right there, right in front of the oyster shucking station. And I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, but Jocelyn's like the program manager for the SCORE program for the Outside Foundation, South Carolina Oyster Reef Enhancement. So it's not like she hadn't seen someone shuck oysters before, but to put her in front of the kitchen, right there when they sit you right at the counter is a hell of an experience. It's one of the reasons why I love Local's Raw Bar. And let's be real. I mean, Farm is not much different. If you're on that first floor, Yeah, while you're in the dining room on the first floor, or you're sitting at the bar, all you have to do is look through. I mean, it's not an open, but it's open enough where you can kind of see what's going on. And I can imagine the number of trips that you've gone up and down those stairs.
Yeah, I
Um,
like to tell people that I'm a dumb waiter.
yeah, right. You know what's
I'm like,
funny?
I'm literally the dumb waiter.
I was about to say this to you before when we were talking. Um, when I went to Flora and Fauna, or when we decided that we were going to do it on Sunday, my wife said, "Okay, well, I want to stop at E-Shavers. It's kind of like a deal that we have. I'll drop you off. I'm not the biggest reader. I'll drop you off at E-Shavers, and then I go over to Planet Fun and I rummage through like the wrestling action figures and see if there's any hidden gems or anything like that. And I always like to just kind of go look back at the display case and see, what kind of vintage things that they're selling for what kind of crazy price. And usually I'll spend maybe $20 for some obscure figure that I'm pretty good at remembering what I have and what I don't have, because I try to limit myself to the guys that I root for, to the guys that I'm a fan of. But right after I went to Planet Fun and I came back and I was waiting for her to finish up in E-Shavers, I popped into Casa Guava, and they have that thing where they pull the thing down and the tray comes up. And honestly, like, I love that place, and they said they were going to be closing. It's just one of the better Cubans in the area, specifically in Savannah. There's a couple of good options for Cubans, but this poor girl on Sunday was like, a whole family came in, like a family of like almost like a dozen and a half people. And I came in right after that, literally just to grab a couple of croquetas and a tamales and a guava lemonade. And I probably waited for like a half hour, and she was up against it because all that food went in at the same time. And at one point, the dumbwaiter came down to the counter and she was making a coffee, and the guy started to pull it back up again before he even looked down to see if she had taken it off. And she reached up and took both of these little trays off of the thing literally a millisecond before. And there's a table at Casa Guava. It's very, very small dining area inside. There's a table that's right next to the counter. And it was this close from, and I think the sauce cups have lids on them, but regardless, mine did because I took it to go. But this was very close to being a disaster, because if she didn't pull these out from over the top of the dumbwaiter at the moment that she did, that food would have been launched probably all over the dining room, and it would have been just a complete disaster. But yeah, it's an interesting structure there when you have a dining room, first floor, second floor. Obviously, there's a lot of shelves. It's kind of like Captain Woody's, I guess, would be the same thing. Although the only difference there is that they have a whole nother bar up there on the second floor. I want to talk about, let's circle back to the kitchen for a second, because like I said, you really have to see it to believe it. I'm going to start with, so over here on the right side used to be, I'm moving my mouse as if people can see it. Over here on the right side, this is where that Rancho,
It was
whatever it was.
Rancho. So it was a couple different iterations, but it ended as Rancho Grande. And Leanne, actually, what's crazy about that is, so Hunter offered me to come work at to go work at Locals, and it had been so long since I'd done like sushi, like dinner service, and like around the same time that Hunter offered me that, Leanne got offered that spot. It's just that Rancho had, their lease to fulfill or whatever. So I'm like telling my buddy Nash, who's the chef at one of the chefs at the kitchen, on the new side, he's the chef over there. I'm like, so Hunter just offered for me to, go work at Locals with him, and he's like, bro, Leanne's getting next door. So it's like and I'm it's crazy because like I talked to Leanne about like, hey, I'm putting in my notice to go work with Hunter, and she was so supportive of it. And so while she's like listening to me doing this, she's like, I've got the spot next door, Justin. So it's crazy. Listen, like with Leanne in the kitchen, that place started out of her house, right? She is a busy parent, so she came up with this concept to put out an email list for her friends and friends and family that she knew that were busy as well, that didn't have time to make dinner. And I believe she started with like lasagna and chicken tetrazzini or something. I think those were her first two dishes. And her sister would put out the email list, get the orders, make the food, and even drop it off at people's houses. Then they acquired that little spot in New Point. And so a lot of the people that have been eating at the kitchen for years, because this place has been open technically 15 years, they remember the New Point spot. So it was this tiny shoebox and they were pumping out like all this food, right? And then she gets this spot. Now, this spot in this uh strip mall at one point was like a CVS or an Eckerd or like whatever drugstore that is. And so next door to the kitchen, there's a gym right there, right? So I believe she was offered to get the entire space, but was like, I don't need that much space. So they put the wall up and put the gym there. And the kitchen, when I got there in 2022, like was still pretty small. And then she was like, man, I should have gotten the entire space. And then Graco actually that warehouse used to be like their overstock. She acquired that space as well, expanded even more, and then got the opportunity to go next door and has expanded even more. So like what Leanne has done with that place is like such an organic, and it's impressive, man. Like she literally started out of her house doing this, put it into a small spot, put it into another small spot, and then now has like acquired like it's really impressive, man. And like also the thing about Leanne, like talk about somebody having like patience for me. All the people that I've worked for over the years, because once again, I said I'm a diva. Like when I went to Leanne and was like, hey, I'm going to go help open this. Or when I was like, hey, Nick at Shell Ring wants me to do these pop-ups, or I've got all these private dinners, or so-and-so wants me to go work here or whatever. She has been so patient and like given me the freedom to do all these different things because she sees that it also benefits her as well in the sense that like, I'm like a walking billboard and I'm able to bring in these new guests and everything. Like, it's I'm really grateful. And then so like back in November of last year, I knew she was opening this spot and I was still in Charleston. I wanted to move back to Beaufort. I wanted to be where my son is. If my son's mother and his stepdad were like, hey, we're moving halfway across the country, I'd be like, sweet, I'm right behind you. Wherever my son is, that's where I want to be. So I reached out to Leanne and was like, hey, I'm working my way back to Beaufort. Do you have a possible spot for me when the new place opens? And she was like, I'd love to have you back. It's just going to be a couple months. So I think the kitchen was originally supposed to open in like January, and
Right.
then it got pushed back to a couple months ago.
Right.
Um, but once again, like she never set out to create this giant like empire of a place, and it just organically, happened that way. My buddy my buddy Nash and Jay, like they're over on the hot side of the kitchen where it's like our full service. We do breakfast and lunch Tuesday through Saturday. Breakfast is 7:30 to 10:30. There's a little break in between, and then they switch over to lunch, which is 11 to 2. Now we are going to add the other days. It's just that got to set the program, and then also got to have the people in place to be able to open every day of the week. A lot of us since that place have opened have been. I mean, I was at the kitchen basically every day in some capacity over the past couple months. So we also do like an espresso coffee program as well.
Yeah.
And that has been so much fun for me because when I found out that Leanne was doing that, I was like, here, let me try and make all the syrups before we resort to buying them all. So all of the coffee flavors that we do when it comes to the lattes are all the syrups are made in house. So we have like a red velvet one, a s'mores one, pumpkin, all that. And we make all those syrups in house. All the caramels homemade, everything's homemade. And that has been so much fun to do that. I've always wanted to get into coffee. Don't I look like somebody you'd get some coffee from? Like some hipster.
Absolutely. Dude, that frothy mustache alone.
That frothy mustache too. But
That's right. Show everybody that again. Hold on. Let me get this out of here. Hold on.
my tattoo
That's
artist.
another one of the new ones, right?
Yeah. So my sister drew me a coffee cup a couple years ago, a coffee cup with a mustache on it. And I was like, I should get that tattooed. And then I lost the art, of course. I was texting back and forth with my tattoo artist, not about getting a tattoo. And I was like, yo, what you got going on right now? He's like, what you got? I'm like, how about a coffee cup with a mustache, hipster it up? And I get there and he's like, yeah, I just went ahead and put you on a coffee cup.
Done.
But so I've wanted to get into the whole coffee thing for so long. And then all of a sudden it fell into my lap, and man, I've been having so much fun with that. So it's like I've reached this hipster status where I'm like making poke bowls and sushi and stuff, and then I'm making coffee syrups over here, you know. So it's a lot of fun.
You got a lot going on over there, and that's why I was showing everybody some photos as you were telling us about how this came about.
Hmm.
This is what I mean. This is the side where the counter is, and there's seating here. There's some more like couch type of seating behind where I was to take this picture. But this is
It's
a
unlike anywhere
full
in Beaufort,
service
man.
counter. Yeah,
Yeah, it's unlike anywhere in Beaufort. And when you walk in there, one, you don't remember that it was like Rancho, and then two, there's nowhere like that in Beaufort. It's like a high-end market for like goods and stuff. You've got all the coolers full with the food that we normally do, and then now you have the hotline and you have the coffee and espresso. Another thing that we are planning on doing eventually, like we've already started doing events there as well, so being that we're not open, it's not like a restaurant open at night. You can rent the place out, and the thing is we can cater anything from what are the wedding bridal
showers,
yeah, bridal showers. What's the dinner before, what's that called?
rehearsal dinner.
Rehearsal dinner. You could do that there, and then we've got the staff to feed you and serve you. So the cool thing about that place is Leanne's definitely, the beautiful thing about what she does in general. She leaves things somewhat open ended, which kind of sounds weird, but like it's kind of like she starts with something and then sees where it goes, and it works really well, and once again it happens organically, so a lot of special things come out of that. So we are working on doing the events out of there, and also we cater stuff as well. We're like a full cater kitchen as well, so there are a lot of moving parts there.
I'm blown away because there's obviously when you have that type of space, it just makes sense to get into the catering and everything like that. But like even in these last couple of weeks, I'm not going to pull it up because it's kind of hard to see. They've added some stuff. I mean, when I was there was 6 items on the lunch menu: po' boy, fried chicken with pimento cheese, pepper jelly, pickles on a toasted brioche. They had the goat, which was the boar's head turkey thin slice with crispy prosciutto, arugula, goat cheese spread, and blueberry bacon jam on sliced
It's good.
sourdough. A French dip, a French batard, a poke bowl, of course, which is ahi tuna, sushi rice, pickled carrots, radishes, cucumbers, edamame, seaweed salad, spicy mayo, ginger scallion sauce, tabiko, chicken protein bowl. I was there kind of on the early side, so I ended up actually going with a
So
chicken.
you were talking about Cubans a second
Yeah,
ago. So Nash and
that was
Jay
one of
just
the new
added
ones, right? Yeah, that's
yeah,
one of the
and
new ones. Yeah.
yeah, that thing is fire. So they just added a Cuban. They added a focaccia hero, and then there's like a new wrap as well. So that's the other thing too is, um, you know, it started like, pretty like compact, if you will, and then we're only adding. So the adding and doing features. The idea behind that is
Sorry about that.
start small and build.
Right.
I've worked at places in the past where you start with this giant menu, right? And then there's a couple dishes on there that don't really sell. So you take those off. And then the first day you do, the one person that orders that dish comes in and says, "Oh, where's that? That
Right.
was my favorite thing on the menu." So you at that point you remove things, and then you're alienating your guests. So the idea was start simplistic, which there's beauty in simplicity. Use really high quality ingredients, make really good food, and then add to it. So that's kind of like the idea behind it. And the other thing is too is like there are a lot of different people that work at the kitchen, a lot of like, seasoned industry people. So there's like a lot of different looks. We all have our different fortes, and we're able to kind of contribute to that, to each other, and you know and add from there.
It's a true collaborative effort, and I wanted to
Yeah.
bring that up because some of the stuff that you're mentioning. I mean, seasonal drink specials: iced red velvet latte, iced pumpkin spice latte, there's a Build-A-Plate now. There's like you said, the Cuban, the chicken Caesar wrap. Those are some newer additions. Ironically, the one thing that I forgot to grab, and we got to chat for a minute when I was there, the one thing that I forgot to grab was one of your bowls. I like literally went there for the bowl primarily, and I got so much other stuff, and then I got home and I was like, I completely blanked on the bowl. So I'm gonna make that right next time I come over. This green goddess
Well,
burrito
so
looks amazing, and
when
yeah,
it
there's the
comes to
Cuban.
the
Look at
when it
that.
comes to the poke bowls and the sushi, right now we're doing that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and so the poke bowls and sushi rolls that I'm doing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
Okay.
and that's kind of one of those things where it's a specialty dish, and we don't really want like raw food sitting around too long,
Yeah, of course.
so it's kind of like you got to get it before it's gone. We are doing we do like special orders, so I do big platters and spreads to go as well, but those are kind of like got to call in at least like a week in advance, give me a heads up. And I did the other day, I did like a 30 roll platter to go. Before that I did like a 20 something roll platter to go, and I'm also doing private dinners as well. So I've done dinners over in Bluffton. I mean, realistically, I'm willing to travel wherever you got, what you got for me. Send me somewhere, and I'll meet you there.
Sure
So
seems like it, dude. I mean, that's why that's why you have endeared yourself to all these people, because you're pretty much game for anything. Um, whether it's on site or off site. I want to talk sushi, and I'm going to get you out of here in a few minutes because we're running up on
okay.
an hour. I try to keep these somewhat digestible portions, but I want to show people. This was the breakfast sandwich that I got when I was there. This was a sausage, egg, and cheese on a biscuit. It was absolutely delicious. So those were the things that I got to sample. This was a fried chicken on a biscuit with some cheese there. The potatoes were also awesome. I think they might have forgotten my egg on the fried chicken biscuit, but it was okay because this was
You know
so
what?
tasty that
It's funny.
it didn't need it.
It's funny that you say that, because I think so. What happened with the menu is some things went up on that screen. Egg was not supposed to be on the chicken
On
biscuit,
that. Okay.
but it made it to the screen. And I think it's funny that you say that, because I was like, wait, there's supposed to be egg on this. We didn't intend on putting egg on it, but it made it
Right.
to the screen. One more shout out when it comes to the kitchen. If you go to the kitchen and you see something made by D, so D's oatmeal cream pie, any of the dessert, like all the desserts are good, but anything that says D on it is like handmade, homemade by D. And you can also find her on Facebook, D's Desserts. So we had a celebration of life.
DEE.
DEA, DD's
DEA. Okay.
yeah, I
DD.
believe it's
DEA.
DD,
DEA. Got it.
yeah, DD's Desserts.
Okay.
So my grandfather, we had a celebration of life for him this past summer, and we got all the desserts from D. Uh, Working with D is someone where like I enjoy working with people that I feel put into like their craft, what I do, and that's D, man. That's D to a T. But so we got I think like a red velvet cake, a German chocolate cake, and then there was like another one too, and then we got like 2 dozen cookies. And her desserts are incredible. So if you're looking to do like coffee and dessert, so Carrie is our like lead barista at the kitchen, and
Yeah.
then anything that says D, like what we're trying to do too is work towards like pairing some of those lattes with the desserts. So like I've got this idea for an oatmeal cream pie latte. So like go get an oatmeal cream pie latte and get the oatmeal cream pie. But yeah, I just want to make sure to shout out Dee though too. So she does some incredible work, and you can also you can find her stuff at the kitchen, but you can also find it at Smokehouse, which is a barbecue restaurant in Port Royal. It used to be the old post office, and now it's
Okay.
a barbecue place. The owner of that, she does incredible stuff, and she basically like hired Dee to do her dessert program. So like I believe the banana pudding. But the thing is cool about Dee is what she's doing is working it out to where like the desserts that she does at the kitchen are separate from the desserts she does for these other places. That way you go there for that, you go there for that. So
Smart. I
yeah,
like that. I'm gonna have to
yeah,
stop there. I gotta.
you should interview D.
I'm in, dude. Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
Let's go. Yeah.
I'll
Was
get
that
you
after
guys
we
in
get off?
contact.
Perfect, perfect. All right, so we gotta talk some sushi. So I'm gonna cheat a little bit here, and I'm just gonna go straight to your, because I've told you. I mean, I just, you are an incredible follow. This is your personal Facebook page. There is also a page on Facebook called the Sushi Dude. But as we're always, us, think people that we do other things for a living, but obviously we're also, creators to a certain extent, but we're doing it in an effort to, and that's obviously the idea behind the Indulgent Islander, is to spotlight and to get more exposure to these places. So sometimes we get like a little over platformed out, and I could probably have more followers or have been growing my Indulgent Islander Facebook page much quicker, but sometimes it's just, I have a pretty large audience on my personal page, so there's just a little bit more to work with. And your, also your Facebook page is a little bit newer. I would, if you guys want to follow the Sushi Dude, I would go
Thank
to
you.
the
I appreciate that.
Instagram. Yeah, of course. Go to the Instagram because there's a lot more on there. I think it's the Sushi Dude with two E's on the end, right? I think was the new one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so yeah, mishap with my old phone number, all of my
I've heard this
family,
story.
my
It's
friends,
crazy.
clients, they call that woman all the time, that poor lady, and she's like, this lady seems very sheltered, I guess is the way I could say it. She thinks that like she told me that she was gonna notify the authorities because I was using her number for my purposes. And I tried to explain to her, I was like, ma'am, like if I'm trying to like do business, why would I give somebody my
Why on
old
earth would
phone
I
number?
want? I think that's what I said to you. Why on earth would I want people to call you? Like, this is literally taking money out of my pocket. Some
Yeah,
people are
so
just, they can't be
I had
helped.
to yeah, it's all good. It's one of those things where, and it's crazy because like people are like to this day still being like, I called your old number on accident. But so yeah, I had to start the new sushi page, and it's the Sushi Dude with two E's.
Right.
And then my normal page is Bearded Child, and then you can follow me on TikTok, the Sushi Dude, and then of course like on Facebook as well.
I know you mentioned that some of the issues that you were having with stuff getting taken down, which is why it's easier to get that stuff to go through sometimes on TikTok than it is on the on the Instagram, basically, right? It's some of the stuff just doesn't get through. Um, with copyright things and depending on what songs and music you use, because you like to incorporate a lot of fun music. You just did one within the last
Yeah,
couple of days
so
that was a lot of fun.
what's crazy for me is like, so I grew up skateboarding, and sushi in some way has replaced like all the stuff that I got out of skateboarding, I get out of sushi. And it's weird to say that. So like I like editing videos. So when I the reason I like TikTok so much is the editing program on there. I can edit these little sushi videos and like pair music to it, line like there's like you line up parts of the song with certain cuts and all that. And that's what we did like on a skateboard. And like the thing is like with skateboarding, it was a way to interact with people, to teach, to learn, uh performance, a way to like travel. You're going to these different places and skating at these different places. And like when I was in my early to mid 20s and I didn't know what I was doing with my life, and sushi came my way. So Brian at Beato's, when he was the chef at Saltus, was like, hey man, you want to roll sushi part-time? Like, just on the weekends, basically cover the weekend shifts. I was like, sure, let's do it. I've been eating sushi for a really long time. My dad's a retired master gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps. So he was eating sushi in Japan, like before it was trendy here in the States. So my first time eating sushi, I ate like a baby octopus and uni. So I got broke in pretty proper. So I was always eating it. And it's crazy because like I would go sit in front of the sushi chefs at restaurants, and like, conversations would happen. And it was almost like I was learning little things that I still apply. Like one of the sushi chefs I sat in front of said, separate the rice, don't smash it. I still apply that to this day. And that was before I ever rolled sushi. So like when I started doing sushi, it was just one of those things where I was able to communicate with people. One of the things about being in the restaurant industry is I like being in front of the guests and talking to the guests and conversing and interacting. So with sushi, I got like all the things in the restaurant industry. I got to be out front. I got to talk to people. I got to create. I get to teach. I get to learn. So sushi is just something where it's it happened. I keep using that word organically. It happened organically. Like it was offered to me as a part-time job, and then it just took over. It rolled on from there, pun intended.
Completely 100% organically. And I wanted to close with this, but I might as well start with it because I want to go through a couple of these. I want to just kind of do like a little rapid fire through some of this stuff because it really is hysterical. One of the other things that you've been doing though is the beginner
Yeah.
sushi class. So
Yeah.
how did this come about, and why is it called Birmingham sushi class? How did that come about?
All right, so I met this woman, Kelly, on TikTok, right?
Yep.
She would go in my lives. She saw my video content, and she reached out to me a couple years ago and was like, "Hey, I started this business." She's been doing this for like over 10 years now. She's like, "I started this business to where I do these sushi classes. I have worked out all the kinks. It is a program that I reach out." She's taught in like 20 different states because she'll go on vacation and book these at breweries. So
Okay.
she's like turns it business. I mean, she basically sometimes in some ways like uses these to fund her vacations. But so she had reached out to me a couple years ago. Hey, I'd love for you to be a part of this. I'm trying to expand my territory. When I was in Charleston last year, she was, her and I got back into contact, and she was like, "Hey, I'd love to drive down to Charleston. I will drop you off a kit and show you how I do this. And then you give me a list of areas in South Carolina that you're willing to drive to. And I will basically, she's like a booking agent for me, if you will. So I've been working for Kelly for about a year now. And I haven't really, this will be the first one that I've done in a while. But so we'll be at Shell Ring. What's the date on that? November 12th?
November 12th, exactly.
November 12th.
It
So,
is.
and this will be the third time, I believe, at Shell Ring, for this class. Now, the thing is like, this is her program. So I'm like her ambassador for her sushi, class, in South Carolina. And the thing is, um, you know, she basically drove to Alabama. Her and I had been talking for a couple years and everything, but drove to Alabama and taught me what she does, and taught me the class that she teaches, that she's created, and basically like kind of has given me this opportunity to travel all over the state and teach sushi classes. And I'm really, her and I, we were actually, it's funny because she just tagged me in a video this morning and we messaged back and forth. But her and I, like, I look at her like a good friend that we've only known for a couple of years, that we met like via TikTok.
Right.
And man, she's somebody, like, she's so support. It's great, man. The people that I like work with and for are so supportive of me and everything that I'm doing, and they trust me with these opportunities. Like, this is her baby, this is her business, and she
Yeah.
drove over here, taught me it, and basically was like, "Here you go, send me a list of places and I'll reach out and book you." And so I'm like representing her when I show up,
Right.
and it's man, I'm a very blessed and fortunate person to be doing all the things that I do. And the thing is like, a lot of people, I worked very hard when I was in my, man, let me tell you, I worked at Kalawasi, the country club there, and when in like 2010, right? And I hated that job so much. Like, my title was houseman, and
Mm.
I was basically like everybody's bitch, and I made less money than everybody. One of the guests one time, was like, "What's your job title again?" And I told him it was houseman. Like, that was what my job title was, a houseman. And there was one night where he got drunk and he shook his rocks glass at me and said, "Hey, houseboy, get me another drink." And I remember just being like, "I don't think I'm coming back here tomorrow." And I didn't go back there tomorrow, that next
Right.
day. And I remember like around that time in my life, I was like, "Man, I don't want to spend my life doing a bunch of shit I don't want to do
Right.
just to make money."
Right.
And it took a long time. Like, I heard this saying like last night, you see God's handiwork in the rear view. And for me to have like worked with and for all these different chefs, and me basically like acquire certain skill sets and be able to take them and move forward. And like, the thing is like, I'm not done. Like, I don't quite know what my next move is yet. But like this last year when I was in Charleston, I was working for two different catering companies. I worked for a catering company where I learned everything that you can do wrong. Like basically, like I learned from this person everything that you can do to like alienate your employees. I hate to say this, but I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Alienate your employees, your guests, all those things. I also worked for somebody where I learned how you could do everything right, everything for your employees, your guests, and then also how to orchestrate these events with like the ultimate plan in mind,
Yeah.
like where it's everything is covered with a checklist. You
Yeah.
check it once, check it twice, check it thrice, and these events go over. So it's like I've been so many different places, and it's like I'm still adding to that tool bag and able to incorporate all these things, and I'm just, I'm a blessed human being.
It's a testament to you, though, dude. I mean, you got to give credit where credit is due. It's a testament to your professionalism. It's a testament to your willingness to jump in and do just about everything. And quite frankly, it's a testament to you as a person, as a human being, because you're a hell of a good time to hang out with. And when you're working with someone like yourself who enjoys what they do and loves it so much, it makes it easier for the people around you. I mean, that's why I want to show you some of these things, some of these photos, because and we'll start off with this one, which I think is incredibly amusing, with you and Patrick Swayze from Ghost.
Yeah, my friend
As
Kaylin made that for me.
so good, so good. I have a sketch app on my phone, and I mess around with that quite a bit. And I had my friend was at the Giants Saints game. He went over from. He lives in Orlando, and he posted a picture of him as the Giants had an awful performance and ended up losing by 2 touchdowns or more, almost 2 touchdowns to the worst team in the league. And he said, have at it and use this as a meme. And I had to get one of those, because he was wearing Eli Manning's jersey. I had to get one of those dopey photos of Eli making a stupid face and plop him in the seat right in between him and his wife. And it turned out pretty funny, but there were some good ones. One of them, they put him on the boat that the Giants got in trouble for going on the boat down in Miami years ago with Odell Beckham. They had him sitting on the front of the boat with his dejected pose. So it was a lot of fun. But in between, we're going to see some photos of some absolutely beautiful sushi. One of my absolute favorite things, dude, and I'm more of a sashimi person. I try to do all killer, no filler. Not that I don't like sushi rice, I do like it. But when I eat sushi, it's like I just want to eat as much raw fish as humanly possible, raw slash cooked slash whatever. But some of these platters, I mean, this is what I teased today's podcast with. I mean, that's art right there. So this, I'm assuming this was probably a catered event at a private location or whether it was a residence or some sort of catering establishment, right?
Yeah, so that actually, there's a husband and wife that I actually went to school with, man. It's so crazy because I show up to this event and like I know this guy's dad. He used to be like he was my football coach. I did football just a little bit, but like one time, and he was the football coach, and so like I knew this guy's dad from when I was in like middle school, and like we're all grown up. It's so crazy, man. Because when I was a kid, I never thought that I would all of a sudden be an adult one day with all my friends, and we all have children too. So it's kind of wild.
I mean, well, that's the thing. I mean, as you build all these relationships and the word gets out, there's that coffee cup with your face on it, hysterical. Yeah, as you meet all these people, and then after a while, it kind of takes on a life of his own, and the
Yeah.
word spreads
You
on its
went
own.
you went fast by the one with my beautiful son, man. He's a football stud, man. He's a
I don't
little
know. I never know
star.
how people feel about that. I saw that. I wanted to
That's
ask you
all
about
good.
that. I wanted to ask you about that because I saw a video of him playing football the other day.
Dude, the kid
He
the
looked pretty
kid
damn
crushes.
good, man.
Yeah, if my kid sucked, I'd be like, "Ah, yeah, it's fun." But he's actually like really good, and he takes it really seriously. And man, this kid. It's so funny. I'm like, my son is he's very thoughtful and very easy to talk to. All my friends are like, "Man, your kid talks to you like he's an adult." And a lot of my friends are like, "How did your wild ass end up with like this, this like just such a gentle, kind child, man." And yeah, I'm like I said, man, I'm a very blessed human being.
I can't figure out how to turn the sound off on this video, but here he is. There's some of his. Oh no, I got to show this. Show it on the screen. I'm such a dummy. You had a video of him out there getting it
Bro,
done.
yeah, and the cool thing is like he was, all the kids that day just showed up, man. It was great. And yeah,
Got to
man,
be one of
it's
the greatest feelings as a father to be able to enjoy that type of stuff. I'm
dude, it's
Uncle Nick,
so
so
fun.
I have a slightly bit of a different role. I don't have any kids, but I get to have all the fun without any of the responsibility,
Yeah,
which is
man.
it's a different approach for sure. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to, like I was saying, you have so many of these things where you have, at these different events and things. There you are at Flora and Fauna with Declan. Customers and
That's one of my best friends.
yeah,
Yeah.
customers and coworkers alike. She's going out with a nice assortment of goodies there that day. You could tell just by the looks on these other team members' faces, whether you're brewing up some coffee, whether you're putting together one of these incredible platters. You're having fun with it. It's contagious. It's infectious. It rubs off on the people that you're working with. And it makes it just makes it a fun place. I mean, and we talked about, this is another good one right here. We talked about, dude, I can't get enough of this stuff. This is what I'm saying. Like I could sit here for like another hour and take people through. You got tattoos, you got mustaches, you got all kinds of beatos. Your son's tearing into one right there. You got amazing plat. I mean, I don't know that there's visually a more
That wasn't
enjoyable
even
and
me.
entertaining follow on Facebook or Instagram.
That one right there, Jess made that at Locals, man. That was me. So I went in there with one of my best friends, Lynn, and actually Lynn was my first sushi rolling partner. She lives in Charleston right now. She drove down for lunch. We went over to Locals, so it was nice to sit on the other side and get something made for me. And it's so funny because everybody was like, "Oh my God, this looks incredible, Justin!" And I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't do that one." So
I saw you when you posted that. I knew right off the bat from looking at it that was Locals work. This is obviously another Beto situation over
yeah,
here.
I
It's
ate
probably
all of
one of the
that.
smoke things that they do on the weekends. Dude, you are a riot with this stuff. I'm telling you, absolutely hysterical. So much fun. That they had they have it. I think they still have it on the menu, the Patton omakase, and that's
Mhm.
one of the things that I will say, and that's completely on me. The one thing that's on my checklist that I didn't get to do before you left Locals was to sit down and just do an omakase. So one of these days, at some point in time, we're gonna have to make that right, because that's one of my biggest and it's completely on me. I didn't I didn't make it over there in time to do that. But you could still get, folks, you can still get an omakase at Locals Raw Bar. They do an incredible job over there. If you want to get one of these amazing looking poke bowls, there you are with your son playing some hoops, some football, a little bit of everything. But the poke bowls are absolutely outstanding.
Well, maybe one of the next times we do something, what we could do is come over to your house with a couple little something, little small thing, and make some sushi and make some content with that.
Dude, that's what I was gonna say. We definitely have to do this again, and I think we got to do it next time where you're doing work, because, like I said, I'm not that I'm saying I want to put you to work, but I think you understand where I'm getting at with this. Like, you got to kind of see this stuff for yourself. This is it's it's chef, it's cooking, it's preparing food, but sushi is, it's just another language, right? Like, there's just, and I remember just gleaming some of the stuff from Hunter and some of the stuff that he learned. I remember that it was a little bit of an anecdote where he came back to you after he had been at one of these other places, and he said it in a joking way, but it was really spoke to me how he came back and he spoke to you and he was like, dude, we're, for lack, excuse my language, we're fucking doing this all wrong. Like, they, and again, it's still, obviously from an outside view, it's just like you were saying when we started at the top. Sometimes him and some of these other chefs are talking about stuff where it's like, I don't even know what these guys are talking about. When you go to one of these high level, high end Michelin star type of places and you learn stuff that you didn't even consider. And I know that you're someone that appreciates that, because you are constantly trying to learn from everybody that you're around. He was exaggerating when he said it, but that was him going to another place and another location in another part of the country and saying, these are these sushi chefs that are the top in their profession, and we need to do this instead of this. They recommend that we use this instead of that. So it's a constantly evolving art form. And as an artist that plies their trade in this particular category of dining, of culinary arts, if you will, for a lack of a better term, it's just like I said I picked up a couple of school pizzas yesterday. Like Marno and Marie and the school pizza team, they're like perfecting the art of baking pizza dough. And I knew it, but when he posted a picture earlier in the day of how light and fluffy these par baked pies were, that what I was going to get, the end result was going to be spectacular. And I feel the same way about it. Like Hunter had the other day had an elk
Asabuca. Yeah.
What are we even talking about? Like this? And again, you think of this as like, okay, raw bar, but some of the best stuff on his menu, and again, all the sushi is incredible, and there's always going to be a poke bowl special. I actually didn't even finish what I was saying before. When I was going to Beto's and I stopped at Locals on the way back, I wanted to try Selma's Green. So I got a poke bowl on Selma's Greens, and it was absolutely, spectacular. So there's just a constant effort, but like whether it's the not so clear soup with the dumplings,
yeah, I forgot about that one.
It's all amazing. But yeah, you, like you said, you've been blessed. You've been able to be a part of all of these different places through your journey. You don't even know what's going to come next, and that's why we're going to have to keep you close and definitely have you back on. Next time hopefully we'll get to do get to eat some stuff and get to do some stuff in person. But before I let you go, because now we're going up on an hour and a half, and I know you got a lot of stuff to do. Like I said, you're as busy as it gets in this business, professionally and personally. What are we talking about in terms of is there anything other than the sushi class that's coming up on November 12th, which you can go right to Justin's socials. You can go to Justin Patton. You can go to the Sushi Dude, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. There's a QR code that you can scan for tickets if you want to participate in this. Is there anything else that you want people to know about before we let you go? Anything else that's coming up? Anything else that you're looking forward to? Or anything else that you'd like to spotlight from any of these, 3 different locations in addition to the catering that you're doing for 2 of them? Really all 3 of them, actually. I mean, you're basically you're working in the places and doing events for so basically we're talking to a guy who has 6 jobs and is still open to say, what do you want to do if I got a couple hours free in between this and I got to go to my kids' football games and I got to, it's crazy. I don't know how you do it, but what else you got coming down the pike?
Well, I'm hoping that Jeff Beasley, Majoni Oyster Company, I'm hoping that we'll be back at the farmers market shucking oysters on Saturday mornings. So that would be cool. That'd be in Port Royal. That'd be a really cool thing if that I basically he's talking to me about going back, and if he does, I'm coming with him. So there'd be that, and then just go to farm and eat dinner, and on Tuesdays and Wednesdays request me as a server, and then go eat at Beto's. Maybe you'll see me and Lou there. Go eat at Locals, man, or go eat at the kitchen, go get a latte. And also, like, I'm for hire, like when it comes to doing, I do more than just sushi. My forte is like sushi, oysters, and ceviche. It's kind of like, my go-to thing. But I'm for hire, and I work via the kitchen, work via Locals, and eat at these, I think we look at food as just like instant gratification, go eat at these like local places where there's these chefs who are actually putting love into what they do. And yeah, go eat at Beto's, go eat at Locals, go eat at Farm, flora and fauna, common thread, go eat these desserts, hit me up and I'll point you in the right direction.
or me. I'm happy to put you guys in the right direction as well. To any of, I celebrate the entire catalog, as they say. I love all these places. Like I said, just went to Flora and Fauna for lunch, brunch, whatever you want to call it, yesterday. I get out to Beto's and Ladies Island, to the locals raw bar as often as I can. Not as often as I'd like to, but as often as I'm able to. Again, like Justin said, the farm in Bluffton, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. The kitchen Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for the sushi, right?
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Okay. And then, in between, he's helping out with events at all three of these places. So hit us up. We'll point you in the right direction of where to find them on your socials. Like Justin said, he is for hire. And, if you're into sushi, if you're into skateboarding, I know you're a gamer as well. We didn't have a chance to get into that. That was one of my favorite ones that you've ever done, where you said, this is a person that uses Xbox and this is the person
I'm actually not a gamer.
Well, okay, so but
it's funny because I made
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
and the best way I can describe it, folks, is he ate the one. I think it was the Xbox. He ate the PlayStation like a sophisticated. Sophisticated. The PlayStation guy was eating the sushi one bite at a time with his chopsticks. For lack of a better term, the Xbox user just took the sushi roll and just ate it long ways. I'm going to leave it at that because this is a family program, even though it really isn't. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah, I'm not a gamer. That's like the funniest part is when I made that video, all these people were like, "Hey, that's not how we do it." Or like some people were in on the joke.
Xboxers coming to support their system. And then there was another one where you shredded with your skateboard, and the end product was a big pile of shredded lettuce going into.
Yeah, you shredder believe it,
dude. Absolutely spectacular. I'm going to keep that one. You shredder believe it. That's good stuff. All right, man. We're going to let you go. I've taken up an hour and a half of your time. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
I'm super grateful to have connected with you and just to be kind of like even on the periphery of your world and get to enjoy it as a fan, which you are stuck with me as a fan for life. I just love your food too much.
I'm grateful.
And again, I'm thankful to you, man. If it wasn't for you, these places wouldn't be on my roster of, my regular go-to places. So thank you for that. Like we said, guys, you can follow Justin on Facebook and Instagram. The Facebook is Justin Patton. The Facebook is the Sushi Dude. And then we also have Instagram. We have the Sushi Dude with 2 E's on the end. And then we have Bearded Child as his personal account. So much fun. I'm not a TikTok guy, but you can follow him on there as well. That's enough for now. I made myself hungry. It's almost dinner time, and I'm going to have to try to get my hands on some, even though I just had sushi like a couple of days ago. Now I'm hungry for more after we just had this conversation, and I just looked at all this eye candy because it is beautiful as it gets. Thank you again, man. I appreciate your time. As always, guys, stay tuned. I'm going to be with Leah McCarthy tomorrow at 221B Studios talking downtown Delhi and Magnolia Cafe. We got Radici coming up at the end of the week. As always, for me and the Sushi Dude, stay hungry, my friends. Take it easy, guys.